Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're handing out the 2025 report card for artificial intelligence. A year ago, the hype was absolutely off the charts. Now, we're going to cut through all that noise and separate the hype from the reality to see what actually went down. You remember it, right? At the end of 2024, you couldn't escape it. Every tech leader, every analyst, they were all asking this one single question. It was supposed to be the big test for AI's next phase. So, was it? Well, the answer is yes, but it is a very complicated yes. See, the story of AI in 2025 wasn't a simple win or lose. It's about the massive and, frankly, fascinating gap between what we all expected and what we actually got. Okay, so let's start with what the forecasters got right. Because look, amidst all the hype, some of the predictions about where AI was headed were actually spot on. But first, let's just do a quick level set on our main character here, the AI agent. This isn't just a chatbot that talks to you. No. An agent is an AI that acts. You give it a goal, it figures out a plan, and it actually goes and does stuff. That's the game-changing difference. And you know what? The predictions from 2024 were dead on about these big trends. The focus totally shifted to agents inside of businesses. Co-pilots became a normal part of the workday, and those pesky real-world problems, like cost and regulation, they moved from the footnotes to the front-page headlines. Let's look at some numbers for a second. Deloitte, for instance, predicted that about a quarter of big companies using Gen AI would be trying out agents. And what happened? Well, the reality for pilot programs, it landed right around that 25% mark. So the interest? Oh yeah, it was definitely there. And it wasn't just the optimists who were right. The skeptics? They absolutely nailed this one. The unbelievable cost of electricity and the computing power needed to run these things became a huge roadblock for anyone who wanted to go from a small experiment to a large-scale rollout. All right, but now let's flip the report card over. This is where those 2024 predictions got a little too excited and where the cold, hard reality of building this stuff really started to bite back. The biggest miss by a country mile was what these agents could actually do. The dream was this reliable, autonomous AI worker you could just hand tasks off to. The reality? Well, the agents are still pretty brittle. They break easily, they're unreliable unless the task is super specific, and they almost always need a human babysitter. And if you want one number that just tells the whole story, here it is. This comes from a 2025 MIT report. A staggering 95% of enterprise projects failed to show any clear business value. They're calling it pilot purgatory, where it's easy to start an AI project, but nearly impossible to turn it into something that actually helps the bottom line. We also didn't get that massive, game-changing leap in intelligence everyone was expecting. You know, that GPT-5 moment that was supposed to change everything? Yeah, that didn't arrive. Instead, progress in 2025 was slow and steady, much more incremental than revolutionary. This quote just perfectly captures the disconnect. There were these incredibly bold predictions that fundamental flaws, like the models just making stuff up, would be solved by now. Guess what? It didn't happen. These so-called hallucinations are still a massive headache for everyone trying to build with this tech. And of course, we have to talk about the big one, the jobs. The fear that completely dominated the conversation heading into 2025 was that AI was about to cause this huge wave of unemployment. But what actually happened on the ground was way more nuanced. We just didn't see mass replacement. What we saw was augmentation. AI became a tool, a co-pilot, that helped people do their jobs better and faster. It didn't make them obsolete. So, all of this leads us to the most important question. Why? Why was there such a massive canyon between the hype of 2024 and the sober reality of 2025? It really seems to boil down to three things. First, everybody just way overestimated how reliable these systems would be. Second, they totally underestimated how incredibly hard and expensive it is to plug this stuff into real-world business workflows. And third, the conversation changed. It went from, wow, cool demo, to show me the money. And most of these AI projects just couldn't deliver a clear return on investment. So what's the final verdict here? What's the big takeaway from AI's journey through this crazy hype cycle in 2025? I think the best way to say it is this. The forecasters in 2024, they knew the final destination. AI agents are the future. But they thought the journey was a quick sprint down the block. Turns out, it's a long, difficult, cross-country marathon.
And that brings us to the new consensus that's really taking hold among the experts. That dream of a truly general-purpose agent, it's not a year away. It's probably a decade away. And we're not going to get there just by making today's models bigger. It's going to take brand new scientific breakthroughs.
And so that leaves us with a defining question for the next few years. The hype has officially collided with reality. Now, the real race begins. The race to find the genuine breakthroughs that will finally unlock AI's next great leap forward.